This is very official. Sorry. So thank you for all of you for coming and coming long distances. Actually, I just lost my piece of paper. So a little bit about me first. Ilana said that I'm a pre-viver, and I am. I'm a third generation pre-viver. I was born with FAP. So actually, before I got started, I wanted to ask some questions first. I didn't get to meet all of you. So where am I? Who has FAP? Where are the FAP people here? Awesome. Lynch? Very cool. Where are the pre-vivers? People who've prevented cancer from by having a surgery? Oh yeah, I forgot. We have a SMAD4, JPS, right? Awesome. I look forward to talking to you. I've only met one other person with JPS. I actually haven't met him. I just chatted with him. Cancer survivors. One cancer survivor, two cancer survivers. All right, so I hope that you're looking around the room, you're finding each other. Oh, my favorite people, the caregivers. Oh, come on. Let me see. These are the people, man. Our lives are not as easy without you caregivers, so they're my favorite people. All right, so I'm a pre-viver. I was born with FAP. I'm a third generation. And honestly, my story is not like super crazy. It's not much different than most people's that have FAP. So I think I spoke to someone whose grandfather was the first one. My grandfather was the first person to have FAP in my family, and was kind of the sacrificial lamb, as often families have. So he passed when he was 36 years old. But then because of him, when he was diagnosed, the doctors knew right away it was polyposis, and the standard of care just got much better in our family. So I had three of my 6 aunts and uncles had it. My dad had it, and then I had it. Had my colectomy at 15, and was really kind of one of the fortunate people that for the next 20 years, life was just pretty gravy. Like no one ever walked up, asked me if I was missing a colon. Kind of always just looked like this, like I just looked like a normal person. Lived a normal life, went to school, got in trouble, did things I'm supposed to, things I'm not supposed to. It was just normal. And when I was about 4 or 5 years ago, I was working at a lab outside of Chicago, and I got really sick. And went through this period of time when life got kind of scary. Sean and I had just got married. It was about a year after my dad had passed. It was the same age as my grandfather had passed, and I was just getting sicker and sicker, and the tests were more invasive and more invasive, and it was a kind of a scary time. And I was fortunate to come out of it on the other side. But when we figured out the problem was rather benign and we were able to deal with it, when I came out the other side, it was the first time that I ever kind of drew back the curtains and kind of seen what was going on with this community. I had had such a good life, I didn't really pay much attention to it. And during this period of time, I started looking for resources and seeing how, oh, actually I forgot, I have slides. I'm not used to having slides, I forget. So actually this was me when I was 15 years old, right after my surgery. You're welcome to laugh because I'm a beanpole. I was 6'4", 110 pounds when I went back to school, right? That's my grandmother. I might have actually been leaning on her at the time. So for the people who have these surgeries early, I know well what it's like to be in a junior in high school and not have a colon. It's a rough go, but it was something that we survived. So it was during this period of time that I started realizing how difficult it was for patients to access, or families to access, information. Everything I was looking at would be, the first line would be, familial adenomatous polyposis is an autosomal dominant. Okay, well, my father wouldn't be able to read that. Most of my family wouldn't be able to read that. And I was really kind of frustrated at how difficult it was to find information that families could understand. That, it kind of reminded me of back in the day whenever the Bible was only written in Latin and no one spoke Latin anymore. You just had to be dependent on other people to be told what was going on. You couldn't own it. And that was one thing that really bothered me. Looking at the conversations on Facebook and watching how they weren't being metered, like the conversations get really dark. And I believe that these diseases their teeth grow with negative energy, that the more down we are and the more scared we are, the more voracious they are, and that someone needs to be lifting these conversations back up. I was outside, well, just outside of Chicago, never knew there was a specialist like City of Hope team 30 miles away. Found my doctor just completely by accident. So you start putting all this together, finding out how little education there is even for medical professionals. Most GIs only get a couple of days. City of Hope runs a tremendous course for medical professionals, and they're filling that vacuum. But they're just all these little things that needed to be done. And so we quit. I quit my job as a chemist. I was doing research and was playing with plutonium and having a good time with that, and quit and started this organization and really started trying to address some of these issues. So if you go over to our table, we just released, do I have a mouse? Is that everything? The first foray into this, we wrote the Patient's Guide to FAP, and in a couple of weeks, we'll be releasing the Sister Guide to Lynch Syndrome. These guides are literally starting with the same screening and treatment guidelines that any doctor would normally be looking at, the National Comprehensive Cancer Network. And then we rewrite them so that anybody can understand them at a very basic level. The big words are still there. You still have to know all the big words you're going to find in your medical reports. But anything else, we really make them very patient-friendly or family-friendly. We tried to answer the lack of connectivity through this community by today's Family Day was a brainchild of Sean's. Sean has this education background, and she put together this awesome curriculum and the scaffold to be able, with our vision of being able to connect families to centers of excellence so that you're networking with each other, you're being educated on your conditions, no one's gonna try and run a scope through you right now, so you don't have that tension ahead of time. There's no co-pays involved. You get access to specialists and experts who are volunteering their time to try and educate you because they want you to understand what's going on and help you help them and have this kind of relationship. We have 3 more going on this year. So we have one in Chicago, Roswell Park, and Geisinger. So if you have family around the world, not around the world, if you have families around the country in these areas and they want to come, we're going to have 3 more days very similar to these. You can tell them about it. And so we also, through our organization, so those are kind of an overview of our direct-to-patient or direct-to-family resources. Everything we do is free. We also do what I call our indirect. We try and work with the community. So we run a webinar series for medical professionals. I think some of the people that are volunteering their time are participating, but we bring literally so like SMAD4, we had Jim Howe, who discovered SMAD4, speak to 400 genetic counselors about what it was like to discover and what they understood of it. So we bring literally the top minds. Randy Burt, who discovered the gene for FAP. Rick Boland, who discovered Lynch syndrome and named it after Henry Lynch. These are the people we have speaking to these medical professionals and providing educational credits for them. And then we've also been really active in what you could kind of call grassroots research, because the whole of the organization is my wife and I, Sean, and my sister-in-law, who works part-time. We're not this massive, robust organization with a building on K Street in Washington, D.C. We work out of our apartment, which means we work out of cafes a lot. It's just Shawnee and I. So we do kind of what I call, grassroots research. So we're submitting a grant with the University of Michigan to do a family day where we can tack on a virtual component so that families who can't travel very far can have access, or working with graduate students at Brandeis and University of South Carolina who are interested in addressing different aspects. So Sean Fayer at Brandeis University is really kind of curious about what it's like to be a young person at 20 years old, finding out you have Lynch syndrome, but not having real cancer risks until your 30s and 40s, and how does that affect your life? People want to understand that and help that change the quality of care. There's a research opportunity. Alana, was I supposed to talk about the research, the surveys? Or is someone coming up after that? No? Okay. We're interested in gaining an idea about how behavior and attitude and knowledge about the screening for these conditions affect each other. How can we basically just step up the quality of care? So I'm probably going a little bit long, but I can skip the rest. We're trying to do some research. We're working with the FDA to try and develop new treatments, working with pharmaceutical companies to help prevent cancer or help delay the time of colectomy. And we have a really great website, hcctakesguts.org. You can find all these resources, and they're free. And so I still have 10 minutes. Oh, sweet. Cheers. I don't have a cup of coffee. And so I didn't want to stand up here for 20 minutes and talk about me, which is surprising if you know anything about me. I do like to hear myself speak. But what I wanted to do was try and highlight some other people. You know, we're not the only people in this community trying to make it a better place. Like, it's not just the Hereditary Colon Cancer Foundation, this ivory tap. There's a bunch of people doing it, and we really try hard to lift up their work and raise awareness. So I wanted to tell you about this one lady, a friend of ours who we've been working with since we first started, Dakota Fisher Vance. She has FAP. She was the de novo in her family. And at 21, 22, it was when she got hit by a big truck with FAP. She had a desmoid. Did she have cancer? She did have cancer, right? Yeah. And it really took a person who was earmarked for college, medical school, loved to travel, and just knocked the winds out of them. So she didn't know anything about FAP. She was the first person in her family. And she started typing in FAP into her search browser, which, if anyone's ever just typed FAP into Google, it doesn't always return back family-friendly content. It turns some vulgar stuff back in. And so she was extremely upset that families who are dealing with cancer and desmoids and life-changing events should be insulted by having vulgarity presented when they type in the name of their disease. And so that was her effort, has been to change that and tell her story. So she started Fabulous TV because she thinks that we should be able to own our own disease, even if it's an acronym, be able to own it, and change the Google search results so that people type in FAP, they find out about us and not find out about other things. And so she started a Facebook page and YouTube where she's highlighting her story. She talks about going through chemo for desmoids, and she had this gorgeous head of hair and dealing with what that's like to watch her hair thin. But, she's extremely positive. She has easy. She's really positive and keeps a great outlook. And we're actually talking about doing a podcast discussing some of the core things that people with syndromes like we have to deal with, family planning or careers, or how do you find a job where at Chick-fil-A where you're trying to tell your boss that maybe every couple of hours you feel run to the bathroom when there's 12 people at your register because you just had a colectomy. These are things that we're all trying to figure out, and we shouldn't have to do it in a vacuum. We can do it together, and that's what she's trying to do. And hopefully on these next couple of slides, Sean's going to fill in my gaps for me. One person I wanted to discuss, Sean is a big fan of Selena Martinez. She has Lynch syndrome. Her dad, I just lost his name. Sorry, her father. He has a nickname, and I just lost his nickname. But her father has had cancer 7 times. He had 3 skin cancer events, 2 colon cancer events, stomach, pancreas. It's actually easier to tell the organs that didn't have cancer. And this was her experience with Lynch. And so what she really wants to do is, one, she's running 8 half marathons, 1 a year for 8 years for every cancer event that her father has gone through, and raising money in his name. And then they've actually galvanized this. So she was doing some research in genetics, aspects of genetic research at University of California, San Francisco. And she's actually going to get her MBA and MPA at Presidio College. But she started LS Latino at the strikingly.com, so Lynch syndrome Latinos, because she wants the Latino community to have a voice within Lynch syndrome throughout Central America, South America, so that they can all come together as a community and share their stories. So she's about to start a video blog where she's capturing people's stories. And then one of the people that we first started working with early on, Candace Henley, this lady in the back, and these are her 5 daughters. Her story is remarkable. She entered the hospital with stage 2 cancer and left the hospital homeless, essentially. She had been in the hospital so long and literally had a job and a family and doing everything right, and come out and she's living with other family and she's dependent upon other people, and she's maintained this amazing attitude. She's been extremely active with Colon Cancer Alliance. She's actually been hired recently with Michael's Mission, which is another colon cancer organization. And she's been reaching out through the African American and Black community with her Blue Hat Foundation. Blue hats within the African American community are worn with great pride and something that women own, very empowering. And so she's been working through her community and through the churches to educate and raise awareness. And she's also spun this off to men with the blue bow tie aspect. So she has these fundraisers. So there's a tremendous amount of people in this community that are doing really great things. I've only highlighted 3. There's a guy here in not far from here, John Olees, probably one of the best mountain bikers I've ever seen. Has FAP, colectomy, and he has a blog called Riding Away from Cancer, because that's every time he gets on the bike how he feels. So I guess I would just leave you with a couple of things. It's been a while since I've talked about myself, so I figured I might as well end with that. For people that are going through this, I feel like with FAP or Lynch or with any of these conditions that you get out what you take in. It kind of reminds me of that scene in Empire Strikes Back where Luke goes into the cave and sees his father, and if he takes the lightsaber, he's going to use the lightsaber. I know it's kind of a tenuous connection, but it's what always makes sense to me, because with these conditions, what you take in is what you get out. If you take in negative, they grow teeth and they'll eat you alive. You stay positive, they might bat you around a little bit, but it's going to be a far better outcome. My cousin and I have the same disease, and he's had a really negative look on this thing, and the differences are striking. And so I just try and remind people that, these are actionable diseases. These are diseases that when you work with the Center of Excellence, like Jeff and TJ's team here at City of Hope, Lana and all of them, it's not going to be a cakewalk, but it's manageable. It's something that we can all we can all figure out, and you can have a great life. And then beyond that, I want to thank Alana and Shani. They've been the contacts for this whole family day. Sean designed the whole thing. Alana and Sean have weekly check-ins every week. They've pushed this whole thing forward. So if it's really beautiful and you really enjoy it and you want to see another one, let them know, because they've worked their rear ends off. My motto at the foundation is just try not to mess anything up and let Shani do all the work. And that's really what's been happening. You have exhibitors, you have food, you have drinks, you have people here that want to talk to you about your condition and educate you. Whatever you need out of this, get it. If you're having a great conversation and the session starts, it's not obligatory. Enjoy your conversation. It's 147 degrees outside, so you can decide how long you want to enjoy that conversation. But if you want to take time and be over at the exhibitors, do that. If you want to go chat up TJ and see what he knows, do that. Just get what you need out of this, and let this day be about you. And I guess that's really it. So I thank you for your time.